Jesus heard the rumors that were spreading amongst the Pharisees, supposing that he was baptizing more people than John. The fact was, he didn't baptize anyone himself, his disciples were. He then decided to leave the area and go back to Galilee. This meant that he had to travel through Samaria. En route, they approached Sychar, a Samaritan village bordering the field which Joseph inherited from his father Jacob. The well which Jacob dug was still in operation. Since it was already midday and Jesus felt exhausted and thirsty from their day and a half walk, he decided to wait at the well while his disciples would go into the village to buy food. When a local Samaritan woman finally arrived to draw water, Jesus immediately asked her for a drink. There was still no sign of the disciples. The woman obviously anticipated this request and was ready with her response. You are a Jew, aren't you? So why would you expect to get anything for free from a Samaritan woman? Within the politics of the day, Jews looked down upon the Samaritans and had no dealings with them. He looked at her in the eye and said, if you could see the generosity of God's grace gift, you would perceive who I am. So, here I am, asking you for a drink when you should be asking me, and I would give you the water of life for free. Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. How would you reach this living water? Whoever you are certainly not greater than our father Jacob, who left us this well and its legacy as our inheritance. He bought this land and dug the well. He drank from it himself, and it sustained his family and their livestock for centuries. How can you compete with that? Jesus answered her, this well cannot quench the thirst that I am talking about. Anyone drinking from it will thirst again. Whoever drinks from the source of this water that I shall give will never thirst again, because the water that I give becomes an artesian well bursting from within, defining the life of the ages. Sir, then this is what I want. It will save me the trouble to return here again and again to bail out water for my thirst. Jesus said to her, picture yourself back at home. You have discussed this with your husband, and before long you will be right back here drawing water again from the same old well. The woman answered, but I have no husband. Jesus responded with, this is an honest answer and confirms my point. Marriage does not define you. You could have failed 5 times, and this time you're not sure about committing yourself to the guy you're living with. She was shocked. Sir, now I know you are a prophet. I'm also religious. Our forefathers worshipped here in this mountain. Yet you Jews insist that everyone should worship in Jerusalem. Jesus said unto her, believe me, lady, the moment everyone was waiting for has come. From now on, worship is no longer about a geographic holy mountain or a sacred city in Israel experience. You have been worshiping in ignorance all along, while the Jews continue to anticipate the Messiah in their devotion, knowing that the promise pointing to the Savior of the world would be emerging from within. The end of the era has arrived. The future is here. Whatever prophetic values were expressed in external devotional forms and rituals are now eclipsed in true spirit worship from within, face to face with the Father, acknowledging our genesis in Him. This is His delight. The Father's desire is the worshiper more than the worship. God is spirit and not a holy mountain or a sacred city with man-made shrines. Return to your source. The Father is our true fountainhead. The woman then said, I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called the Christ, and when he arrives, he will declare everything to us from heaven's perspective." Jesus responded to her, "So here I am, speaking to you. I am the one you were longing for." Just then, his disciples arrived. They were quite surprised that he was in such deep conversation with a woman, but made no remarks. Leaving her water pot behind, she hurried back to the city to tell the people what happened at the well. "Come quickly. I met a man who told me everything about my life. Could this possibly be the Messiah?" She aroused their interest enough for them to leave the city at once, to go meet this man for themselves. Meanwhile, his disciples were urging him to take some food, but he said, "I am feasting on food you cannot see." His disciples were baffled. Who brought him anything to eat? Jesus said to them, "My food is to fulfill the desire of my sender and to leave no detail undone. Would you say that it will take another 4 months for the seed to ripen in the ear? This is not the food that I am talking about. The fruit of your own toil will never satisfy permanently. I want to show you the real harvest. From now on, look at people differently. See them through your Father's eyes, and you will know that they are ripe and ready to discover how perfectly mirrored they are in me. This harvest reveals how both he who sows and he who reaps participate in the same joy of the life of the ages. Just as the proverb says, one sows and another reaps. I commissioned you to reap that which you did not labor for. Others labored, and you tapped into the fruit of their toil." Intrigued by the woman's testimony, many of the Samaritans from that city believed. They then approached Jesus and entreated him to remain with them longer, so he stayed over for 2 days. When they heard him speak, many more believed. They said to the woman, "Now we believe, not just because of your word, but we have heard for ourselves and can clearly see that this man is indeed the Christ, the Savior of the world." After the 2 days with them, Jesus left for Galilee. Explaining why he was heading north to Galilee, John remembers how Jesus repeated the saying that a prophet is not honored in his own native land. The Galileans welcomed him with open arms. They immediately recognized him for the spectacular things he did in Jerusalem, where they too had been for the Passover feast. So Jesus again visited Cana, where he turned the water into wine, and there met a man of the royal family whose son was sick in Capernaum. This man heard the rumor that Jesus has returned from Judea and was back in Galilee, so he went looking for him. When he found him in Cana, he entreated Jesus to urgently come with him to Capernaum to heal his son, since he was at the point of death. Jesus responded with, "If your belief in me is merely based on the signs and miracles you can see, you miss the entire point of my mission." The nobleman urged him to come with him at once, before it was too late. Jesus then instructed him to return home on his own and said, "Your son will live." And the man believed the word that Jesus spoke and left. The man was still on his journey home when his servants met him to tell him the good news that his son lives. He immediately asked them about the time that his son was healed, and they told him it happened at the 7th hour the previous day. The father knew that it was the very hour when Jesus declared his son alive. He and his entire household came to faith that day. This Jesus did again as a second sign to mark the significance of his ministry beyond Judea into Galilee.